existed before don't exist.
They don't exist anymore.
Absolutely.
So Igbo
they have been overtaken by events.
So UNESCO is predicting it will be extinct in 2025.
2025.
But that's so close.
But that is that is an estimation. It's a projection. It may be a little more or less.
Okay.
You understand? But it gives you an idea that the language, the predicament of the language itself, and peoplehood of Igbo people, because when you don't, a language is the same thing as a people. Like Hausa. Hausa is a group of people than language, like Fufude, Swahili, or Igbo, or Yoruba. You know, languages are coterminous with peoplehood. So when you lose your language, you lose your cultural traditions, your identity, your civilization, your history. That is why it is very, very important that a language does not go into extinction.
So technically now, Igbo is dead, technically.
So says UNESCO.
So says UNESCO. And
it's among the languages declared dead.
And is heading for extinction.
In fact, if you look at the population, the demographics of Igbo people, they are scattered all over the whole world. And I'm sure that they are more in population than what people may be led to believe. But I think I heard that there was a recent short list of languages that were made compulsory by one of these secret service outfits abroad. Yoruba was there, Hausa was there, Swahili was there, but Igbo was not there.
Yeah, but I mean, that report was like, was that like 2 years ago?
Igbo was not there.
I can't remember.
And you see, the continued use of Igbo as a public information infrastructure, I think is just symbolic. Because the Igbo person will rather speak English than Igbo. In fact, speaking Igbo is seen as primitive and unbecoming of the enlightened. Except perhaps Anambra dialect. But because Anambra dialect is a lot more refined and you can speak it, you know, flexibly with English mixing in it and what have you.
William, the average, I mean, I don't have any statistics to back this, any concrete data to back this. But from my personal observation, if you line up 10 contemporary Nigerians, young, maybe, I mean, with small kids who are educated, 9 of them, their children will not be able to speak their local languages, whether it's Yoruba or Igbo or whatever other language. Why is that? Is that a correct observation?
Let me just say that this thing gets worse with each coming generation. Our own generation, you see, a lot of us could speak their native mother tongue. Maybe because we lived in villages or maybe in the cities, the language was still current, it has not been overtaken by events. I mean, how do you say things like gig, Twitter, or Instagram? I mean, this is era of rocket science.
Modern words.
Because a language grows mainly by interaction, pristine interaction with civilization, and neology, which is an adaptation to native lexicon. But if you have a situation that you can hardly say a sentence without 70% of it being English, I mean, why do you even bother?
With that language.
So you find out that each generation is worse than the previous one because language attrition, because of the loss of currency, the acceptability of the language.
Now, speaking is even easier than reading.
That is correct.
They can't even read. How many young people can read?
My own kids can't speak, they can't read. I mean,
they can't read Igbo.
I've given them the books, though that was not my motivation. Like I was saying, it was not like I was out to save the Igbo language as such. But when I began to find out these facts, I mean, my interest evolved from mere writing this book as a hobby to what you found the account I gave in the book, you know.
So do you see this as a crisis?
It depends.
Is it a big problem?
It depends on what you mean. Of course, it's a problem. You cannot wish it away. It's a problem because when you lose a sense of identity, it has a sociological and psychological problem implications. I mean, you don't know where you are coming from. How do you know where you're going?
Let me read something. I saw on the internet. for you and see. Let me get your view on that. Now, it says here, it's a Wikipedia page
Okay.
on Igbo language. Igbo is written in the Latin Igbo is written in the Latin script, which was introduced by British colonialists. Now, let me read that again. Igbo is written in the Latin script, which was introduced by British colonialists. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. This tells me that before the British came, we probably were not writing. There was no writing of Igbo language, for example, or any of the local languages.
There are about 7 attributes of civilization. One of them is alphabets, handwriting, social institutions, occupation, navigational instruments, drama, and material wealth.
Okay.
Before the coming of the white man, I would like to believe that there was some form of written rather than oral communication, but it was shrouded in secrecy. I mean, you had to be initiated to a certain cult before you can write. There were the institutions, the occultic institutions that predated even the coming of the white man. I would like to believe there was some kind of written, and that is why people can, for ease of reference, that is what kept the timetable and calendar of traditions. But with the coming of the white man, of course, the alphabet we have is not the native alphabet we were using. And there were limited literature because of, problems of vocabulary. There were fewer things you could express in your native tongue.
William, I'm sorry I'll have to end this here. We are totally out of time. I wish you could go on and on.
I'm indeed very
to explain that.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for your time. Thanks for joining us in Channels Book
God bless you. Always a pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank you.